She was sipping her coffee when suddenly an enormous black dog ran into her garden. It slowly raised its head, looked her straight in the eyes and barked menacingly. Then, it was joined by another, even larger dog. Her eyes widened in disbelief. What did they want? And then she knew that they had come for her. Alexandra Naspolini lived in a quiet suburb in Florida and was unaware that disaster was about to strike, just a few feet from her door. She was usually out and about at this time of morning, but today she decided to pause for a moment to enjoy a cup of coffee in her living room while she admired her front garden. And that's when she noticed something unusual. Here in St. John's, Jacksonville, nobody had ever felt the need to erect enormous fences and high walls around their properties. The crime rate here was low, and the residents had always felt safe. It was a closely knit community, and everyone knew their neighbors. So when Alexandra saw the enormous dogs run into her garden on that day in December, she knew that something was very wrong. 62-year-old Maureen Hatcher, just a few doors away, was also going about her daily routine. She fed her Labradors, Sadie and Bella, and prepared her own breakfast before deciding to take a shower. Usually, her grandson, Tyler, was with her, but today she was all alone. While she was in the shower, her security camera catches something sinister. Bella and Sadie begin to bark loudly, and then make a move toward the front door. In the security footage, they can be seen cleverly opening the unlocked door by its handle, and running outside. Then, they make a beeline straight for Alexandra's yard. To an onlooker, their behavior is puzzling. But when Alexandra sees them, she knows they are asking for help. Sadie reached the garden first. I usually am very routine, but that day, I didn't do my usual, Alexandra recalled. I was sitting on the floor drinking coffee and saw her outside. Then I heard the other dog barking. Naspolini couldn't shake the feeling that a tragedy was unfolding, right before her own eyes. The two dogs were clearly distressed, barking frantically. Alexandra immediately recognized them as belonging to her neighbor, and decided to take them back home. They walked a few paces in front of her, then stopped and looked back to see if she was following. They were leading her somewhere. "Where's Mom? Where's Mom?" Alexandra said, not really expecting a reply. Alexandra is seen on the doorbell security camera as she walks up to Maureen's home and rings the doorbell, but there is no answer. An indescribable feeling of terror washes over her. There was just something off about the whole situation. How did the dogs get out? And where was Maureen? She waits for a few seconds, but instead of turning around and leaving, she steps inside. Bella and Sadie continue to bark as they lead Alexandra into the house. She pauses and calls nervously, "Hello?" She follows the dogs through the kitchen and into the bedroom. Her heart skips a beat as she realizes why the dogs had wanted her to follow them into the house. In the bedroom, she is met with a sight she will never forget. Sadie enters the room before Alexandria does and walks purposefully over to the bed. Bella hangs back and lets out a small whimper, then all is quiet. The curtains are drawn and the room is dark. Alexandra waits a few seconds for her eyes to adjust, her retinas burning from the bright sunlight outside. There's something on the bed. Alexandra moves forward, her heart thudding loudly in the dark room. With every step she draws closer to the bed, and the heap lying on top of it. "Mrs. Hatcher?" She calls softly, but there is no reply. The woman on the bed doesn't stir. She takes a deep breath and reaches out to touch the woman's shoulder, and then jumps back in fright. The woman lying on the bed suddenly makes a low groaning sound as she raises her head, and Alexandria quickly realizes that there is something terribly wrong with Mrs. Hatcher. One side of her mouth droops downwards with an expression of terror as she tries to get the words out. Alexandria pulls out her phone and dials 911. She knows something awful is happening, and there's nothing she can do. Maureen Hatcher's brain is being starved of oxygen, and if help doesn't arrive soon, she may never recover. Every second Maureen lies there is a second too late, and she's all too aware that time is quickly running out. St. John's County Fire Rescue arrives within minutes. Both dogs watch their owner being loaded into the van and howl in distress. When the brain is deprived of blood, cells die and permanent brain injury can occur. Timing is everything, Nima Amim Aga Ibrahim, an interventional neurologist, explains. One of the most important factors that can lead to a good outcome for patients in these situations is to get the blood vessel opened quickly and successfully, Aga Ibrahim stresses. Alexandria hoped and prayed that her neighbor would recover. Staff worked as quickly as they dared, and every second counted for Maureen Hatcher, but had she received treatment too late? Surgeons at the Baptist Medical Center used a sophisticated dye to find the blood clot that had caused Maureen's stroke, and were then able to move a stent retriever from the femoral artery in her leg to her neck. It's one of the highlights of our career that we're able to help people such as Mrs. Hatcher, Dr. Aga Ibrahim explains. Thankfully, the surgery took just 20 minutes, and the talented surgeons at Baptist Medical Center Jacksonville had managed to clear the blood clot that had nearly ended Maureen's life. Just 3 days later, she regained the strength in her left side and was given the all clear and discharged. And she owes her life to her amazing dogs, Bella and Sadie. Maureen says tearfully, "I am blessed I don't have any residual effects, and I attribute that to Dr. Nima and what the staff there did for me." But she wasn't only grateful for her doctor's decisive and quick action. She is most grateful for the way her dogs had gone to get help on that fateful day. Without them, she knows she may not be alive. "Had it not been for my dogs going and getting my neighbor, I wouldn't be here today," she said. "I had an angel across the street, I had a great rescue in the neighborhood, and the hospital. By rights I shouldn't be in the shape that I'm in, I am blessed." And when asked about whether Bella and Sadie were trained as service dogs, Maureen's answer astounded everyone who heard it. "The next thing I knew, I was eating the floor and couldn't move, and I said to my girls, the dogs, I need help," she recalls. "Someone asked me, 'How did you train them to do that?' And I just told them, I didn't train them." That Christmas, Maureen was sure to give her amazingly perceptive dogs a very special treat. "There were presents under the tree and prime rib for dinner, and they were spoiled rotten," she said, laughing. The security footage of her dogs going to get help for their beloved owner has since gone viral, and netizens can't get enough of the incredible story. People soon started to share their own incredible stories of dogs protecting their owners. One commenter wrote, "Many years ago my dog saved me when another dog attacked me while I was jogging. I saved her from being put down in a shelter, and she saved me. She was the best girl ever. No greater love." Other commenters were unsurprised by Sadie and Bella's behavior, though. Dogs are amazingly sensitive to human emotions. They can pick up on the smallest distress signals and help. "I'm so happy that you have 2 wonderful pups, that's a family to keep you safe and loved," one woman wrote. And Maureen's dogs aren't the only ones who have somehow known that their owner was in danger. Labrador retrievers were bred as working dogs as well as for companionship. They were originally bred to help fishermen catch fish and haul in their nets. They are one of the most intelligent breeds of dog, and this also makes them suitable as assistance dogs. Their friendly disposition also makes them great for families with children. It's no surprise that they are the most popular dog breed in America. But before you decide to adopt one, it is crucial to do a little research. Because the Labrador Retriever is America's favorite dog, there are plenty of puppies available from irresponsible breeders, puppy mills, and pet stores. Always steer clear of these and make sure you get a puppy from a reputable breeder who has tested their dogs for genetic diseases and a good temperament. Look for breeders who breed for the betterment of the genetic line rather than for profit. Labradors have some genetic traits that you need to be aware of, too. They just love to eat and will become obese very quickly if not exercised enough or are overfed, and the added weight could also cause hip dysplasia down the line. Remember, the Labrador is highly intelligent, so they will also become destructive if they are not exercised or mentally stimulated. If research is done before getting a Labrador, they make amazing pets. Although they are highly trainable, they do require basic obedience training. The Labrador is well known for his sweet nature and friendliness, both with people and other animals. They are outgoing and eager to please, and have an extremely high level of emotional intelligence. And as Sadie and Bella proved, dogs really are man's best friend. If you enjoyed this story, wait for our next story starting in 10 seconds. She couldn't believe what she was witnessing. She had never seen something like this before. As she counted and continued to count, she knew immediately something was very wrong. But she had to make a decision, and she needed to do it fast. One couple, absolute dog lovers, had been fostering and rescuing dog for years. They especially loved pit bulls, but still, when they saw her, in her state, they knew something wasn't right. Mariesa and Chris had already adopted up to 10 dogs and were currently living with them. Still, they knew they had to do more to educate people on this kind of breed. They decided to go to their hometown's animal shelter. Only when they got there, they couldn't believe what they were seeing. When Mariesa and Chris met a couple of years ago, they knew they were meant for each other. Their love for dogs was intense, and they both shared it, making them an excellent couple. They shared their dreams for the future and hoped to one day open a shelter themselves. Even though this couple would love to save all the dogs that go through shelters, They knew this task would be impossible to do by themselves. They settled on one thing: go to the shelter and rescue just one. But as they looked around, they couldn't help notice something dire. Most of the dogs in the shelter were pit bulls. They walked into Pibbles and More Animal Rescue, or PMAR, not knowing that day would be one they would never forget. The pit bull breed of dog is widely misunderstood. Still, this does not mean they are in any way dangerous. In many states, owning a pit bull is even illegal, so it isn't at all unusual to see so many of this breed in local shelters or rescues. Chris and Mariesa have had their fair share of adopted pits, but still can't quite understand why these lovable dogs are disliked. But as they walked through the shelter, they had no idea what they were getting themselves into. Pit bulls are seen as the most dangerous breed because of their wide head and muscular body, but scientifically there is no way to prove this. These dogs are completely lovable, caring and loyal. People have found ways to exploit this breed and have made them feared. Chris and Mariesa knew this, and they were about to meet one particular pup who was more than just amazing. Mariesa's face fell as she walked through the shelter. She knew this was such an incredibly tough choice. Chris and she had compromised and had come to the decision to just choose one dog that day to take home. Mariesa saw one sad dog in the corner of her eye, and there and then, she was in love. This sad dog was heavily pregnant. Her belly swayed massively as her tail wagged enthusiastically. Mariesa couldn't help be taken aback by this beautiful brindle pit, and the pair immediately bonded. "She's the one," Mariesa said, looking at Chris. But they had no idea what this would actually mean. As they asked the staff about that dog, they soon learned her name was Story and she had been surrendered into the shelter when she became pregnant. Mariesa and Chris were in love with Story and her massive heart. The staff at the shelter then went on to tell Story that she should have given birth a week ago, but still, she hadn't. They were stumped. They could not understand why she hadn't yet, and this made them extremely nervous. Story needed help and Mariesa and Chris wanted to help her. As she rested her head on Mariesa's head, she knew what she needed to. But would it be too much to bring in a pregnant dog into their home? Dogs are commonly known to carry 6 puppies, and that would be way too many to have in their home. Mariesa made up her mind. She had to help Story, but still, all of it would prove extremely difficult. Chris came up with an amazing idea that put the couple at ease: foster Story until her puppies arrived and were okay. And that is exactly what they did. But why was she not giving birth? Was everything okay? They had no idea what was delaying her labor. With all their experience in caring for dogs, they never had encountered this situation. They scouted the internet to see if they could get some peace of mind, but when they read the results, they could not help but start to cry. As they researched the reasons why Story was delaying her labor, it all became more clear. The article talked about trauma and stress that animals who are in shelters and rescues go through, and even more when these animals are pregnant and need to take care of their babies. As they kept researching, they started to realize the situation was worse than they thought. If she didn't have her babies soon, she could lose them. Mariesa and Chris immediately looked at each other. They knew they had to get Story to a vet. As they arrived at the vet, the technician could not believe her eyes. They needed to perform an ultrasound fast so they could see what was going on. She saw the faint white outlines but couldn't believe what she was looking at. She counted and recounted again. But now she knew, something strange was happening to Story. The vet looked at the couple and told them something that made them shiver. Story was not expecting 6 puppies. So what had happened to Story's babies? And more importantly, what could they do to help? The vet counted and counted again, and that's when she turned to Chris and Mariesa and said, "There aren't 6 puppies, but 12. They gasped. How could this possibly be? Was this even possible? Story should have given birth already. They couldn't explain why she hadn't yet. They all went home in hopes that within 48 hours she would have these healthy babies. However, if she didn't, they would have to bring Story into the vet for another examination. Story was in danger. She might lose her babies if she did not give birth to them within the 48-hour time frame. Chris and Mariesa were incredibly nervous but wanted Story to be completely at ease with everything. Once they all got home, Mariesa looked around and had a great idea. They decided to give Story all the space she would need by clearing out a bedroom and putting in comfy blankets and pillows. They wanted Story to feel safe and comfortable, as she had probably had not felt that way in such a long time. As soon as Chris and Mariesa went to bed, a miracle happened. Everything was prepared for Story to have a comfortable night. But what they wouldn't have expected would be that when they woke up, Story would be nursing her 12 puppies. They were all healthy and hungry little pups, and Mariesa and Chris soon realized why she had waited so long for her delivery. Dogs having puppies at shelters, it's not the best thing for them. It's stressful for her, stressful for the puppies, Chris realized later. Story hadn't wanted to give birth until she was safe. She was waiting for her opportunity to be taken to a loving home where she and her puppies would be cared for. All Story really needed was to feel safe and protected, and thanks to Chris and Mariesa, she did. All 12 puppies were beautiful little ones who were more than grateful to be out in the world. In 2 weeks, the puppies had opened their eyes and Mariesa and Chris were falling more in love with them by the second. Soon, they were tearing around the garden on their shaky little legs. Requests to adopt them came flooding into the rescue center. They decided not to keep any of the cute puppies, and they all found loving families. One by one, they were taken by their new families to their new homes, where they continue to thrive. But what about their mother, Story? Story had found her new forever home too. Soon after, a man read about Story's incredible tale on Facebook, and fell in love with her immediately. Story's new dad became good friends with Mariesa and Chris, so they can keep close tabs on their miraculous foster dog. Story was an exceptional mom to all her pups. She loved licking them from head to toe, nursing them and playing with them all day long. This mama had been through so much and now she could breathe easy as she was in complete safety. All 12 miracle babies were adopted by loving families. Story didn't go to her forever home until every last one of her pups had been adopted, seeing them off as the good mother that she is. If it wasn't for amazing people like Chris and Mariesa, Story's story would have been a disaster. Shelters need all the help they can get, so even if you are unable to adopt, you may be able to foster. If you are unable to foster, then you can donate, or even just help spread awareness about rescue organizations and the amazing animals waiting for forever homes. Chris and Mariesa are a true example of compassionate and incredible beings. More people should be like them.